Working and understanding layers is one of the most important things in Photoshop and also in the other Adobe applications. Layers allow us to be able to work non-destructively and to be able to move things around individually. So for example here, this looks like 3 postcards on a wooden background, but we can easily move them separately because they are all separate layers. So you can see here in the layers panel on the right side, we have the panorama, the shelter, and the couple all on separate layers. You can see whenever I select a layer, then using the move tool, I can move that layer around. And there is also a structure of these layers. So some are in front, some are behind each other. And the one on the top is always also on the top here in the layers panel. So the one on the top is closest to you. So if I use that layer, the panorama layer, and I use my move tool, I can move that around easily. There's already a very useful shortcut to quickly select a layer by just clicking on it. You have to hold down the command key with the move tool or control on PC, and that will auto select the layer you clicked on. Or you can also right click and then find whatever layers you have under the cursor at the moment. So right now I have the shelter and the background, which is that wooden texture. So whichever you prefer, you can use also instead of going to the layers panel to select the layer. So if I want, I can command click on the panorama and then start moving it around, or even command click and drag to select a layer and immediately start moving it. Remember, this is with the move tool. And if you want, you can even do this without using the shortcut by turning the auto select option on. That way, if you enable that, you can automatically interact with layers by just simply clicking on them, and Photoshop will automatically select whatever you click on. Now, this is great in some occasions, but most of the time this might actually select things that you don't want to select. So I prefer to keep this turned off, and I rather use the shortcut command click whenever I want to switch between layers. So just to show you, for example, this layer is selected here in the background, and I would like to keep moving that around. But if auto select is on and I accidentally click here, that will automatically select the panorama. So I have to make sure I click away from the panorama if I want to keep moving that shelter image in the background. So you can see there's many ways to switch between layers. Either select them from the layers panel, or right click and choose which layer you want, or use the auto select option and just simply click on whichever layer you want to move around. Or if you don't have the auto select option on, you can control or command click to switch between layers as well. To change the order of layers, you just simply have to drag them up and down here in the layers panel. So if I have them all the 3 images on top of each other and I want the couple to move on the top, I can drag it all the way on the top. If I want it behind the panorama but in front of the shelter, I can drag it exactly there. And notice there's a line indicating where this layer is going to be placed in. When I let go, it will go exactly between those 2 layers. And that's what happened here as well. Now, if you want to use a shortcut for this, you can use Command or Control square brackets. The N square bracket combined with Command or Control will move it up, and the open square bracket will move it backwards. So you can move it step by step up or back, and you can also make it faster if you hold down Shift as well. So using the same shortcuts, but with Shift, you can move a selected layer to the top of your hierarchy or all the way at the back. Now there's one exception, the background layer, which by default is locked. That's my texture, that wooden texture in the background. So that is locked by default, and nothing will go behind that, which makes sense because I don't want to do that. But I'm going to show you how to work with a background layer. How is it different from other layers? For now, I just would like you to practice and remember how to move layers up and down in the layer structure, either by using the shortcut or dragging them up and down here in the layers panel. Remember, you won't be able to drag things underneath a background layer. The furthest down you can drag them is just above the background layer. If you want to select and move multiple layers at the same time, you should hold down the Control or Command key to add to your selection here in the Layers panel. So with Command and Control, you can add or remove layers from your selection. Now I have all three of these images selected, so I can move them around. If I take away the panorama by using Command or Control, click on it, now I will only move the other two layers. You can also show and hide layers by using these eye icons here next to the layers. So with that, you can turn on and off layers individually, or you can also quickly turn off multiple layers by click and dragging over the eye icons. That way you can show them or hide them quickly. If you want to see only a single layer without all the other layers, you can Alt-click on the eye icon of that layer. That will hide everything, in this case even the background layer. When you don't have the background layer on, you will see transparency. This is how Photoshop shows you transparent background. And if I Alt-click again on the eye icon, it shows once again everything. Now, hiding and showing layers, you can also access from the menus. So if I have the shelter layer selected, and let's say I want to hide that, I can go to the layer menu and find hide layers. Or in case you have a layer hidden, it will say show layers. And notice that I added a custom keyboard shortcut for this feature because I use this a lot. Instead of always going to the layers panel, I prefer to be able to turn on and off selected layers by using a shortcut. And my preferred shortcut is F3 to be able to do that. In an earlier video, I already showed how to customize shortcuts. I'm just going to show you where you can find it again. Under the Edit Keyboard Shortcuts, you will be able to find the options that you are looking for. In this case, it's under the layer menu. So I'm just going in there. Make sure you have applications menu selected here on the top. And then you just have to find the command, which will be further down in this list. There's lots of options within the layer menu. So this is where it is. If you just click on it, you can press the button you want to use. I'm using F3, so function 3 keyboard shortcut is what I prefer to use with this. And with that, you can see if I press that, I can show and hide a layer even without going into the layers panel. So in case I have multiple layers selected, I can show and hide multiple layers as well. Now remember the auto select shortcut, the command or control clicking on layers to move them around. You can combine this by using that, selecting a layer and then press F3 to hide it. Command click on another one and hide it. Or if I want to show them again, I have to go back to the layers panel and turn them on. If I want to select multiple layers with the auto select shortcut, you can also command click on one and then command shift click on another one. That would be control shift click on PC. So shift will add to your selection. So I'm having two layers selected now. Command shift click on this, so control shift on PC will also add that to the selection. And the same way, with the same shortcut, I can also take away from this selection. So command shift click or control shift click will also take away. So it adds or takes away from the selection. And one last thing you can do with the auto select feature, if you hold down command or control, you can click and drag and highlight layers like this. So whatever falls within that rectangle will be selected. Now I can move all these together. To deselect things, you just command click somewhere else, maybe on the background, which is locked, so you won't be able to select anything there. So that way you can clear your selection. So once again, command click and drag or control click and drag selects whatever falls in the selection. Look at the layers panel at this moment. I have two layers selected. Once I increase my rectangle, the marquee selection, it will include the shelter image as well. When I let go, I can then start moving these together. And if I want to clear my selection, once again, that's command or control click somewhere on the background layer. Now, last but not least, let's clarify what is a background layer. So whenever you create a new document, I'm going to File, New, and any document will do, that new document will automatically be created with a background layer. And that background layer will have a specified color. Of course, this can be changed at any point, but what you will see whenever you create a new document is that you already have the background layer there. Now, if you want to move this around, you can, but you can't delete it because you have to have at least one layer in Photoshop. So if you want to move this background layer around, you can click on that lock icon and then you can move it around. In older versions or earlier versions of Photoshop, you would have to double click on the name background to unlock it. In CC, you can just click on that lock icon to be able to unlock it. So you see now with the move tool, I can move that white fill around, which is my layer 0 right now. So this is how I converted my background layer into a normal layer. If you want to turn a layer back into a background layer, you will have to go to the layer menu, and under new, you can choose background from layer. Once I select that, it will be again turned into a background layer. And it's also filled in with black here now on the left, because a background layer will always have no transparency. So it will be completely filled. You can't have transparency on a background layer. Let me show you what happens if we open an image from Bridge, or just simply go to File, Open, and find an image on your computer. So if I open this image up, you will see that also automatically comes up as a background layer. So whenever you open images that doesn't have layers already, like JPEG files, PNG files, other file formats as well that doesn't actually have layers, will automatically come up as background layer. The limitation of a JPEG or PNG file is that you can only have one single layer in them. That's why it always automatically comes up as the background layer. Once again, if you want to move that around, just click on the lock icon, or in earlier versions, double click on the background layer and then click OK to accept the conversion, converting this into a normal layer that's free to move around. And don't forget that you can bring in more images into the same document by using the File, Place Embedded option. That way you can choose another image from your computer, then place it, which will add that image as a new layer. You can just press Enter to accept the placement, and then you see this already became a separate layer. And in the Layers panel, you will see the file name of that layer automatically. And it's also important to know that if you want to keep your layers saved, you have to use file formats that supports layers, like the Photoshop document, which you will find under File, Save As, format set to Photoshop, or you can also use TIFF, which is a universal version of the Photoshop document, which can be easily opened in any image editing applications. While Photoshop files are more compatible with Adobe products, but most of the time I would recommend to save a Photoshop file version of your work before you save any other file formats. So once again, saving the Photoshop file means that you will be able to open the work back and you will have all your layers available. As long as, of course, you have the layers option selected here. Because you can save a Photoshop file without layers as well, which will automatically flatten that document and will merge all the layers together. But this is all I wanted to show you in this video. In the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about layers. So before you move ahead, make sure you practice what I showed you in this video, selecting layers, moving them around, hiding, showing them, and changing the order of the layer structure.